Whether you're a tech enthusiast, industry professional, or just curious about the future of AI Agents Unleashed will keep you informed and inspired. Buckle up and get ready to unleash the potential of AI.
Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be tackling AI morality.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic, and it's one of those that kind of gets at that core question of, what does it mean to be human?
Right.
What does it mean to act morally and ethically? And can AI do those things? Can it do them as well as humans? Can it do them better than humans?
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, we're going to be looking at how do we judge the morality of AI?
Right.
How do our judgments of AI actions stack up against how we judge human actions,
Mm-hmm.
particularly in those tricky, ethical gray areas?
Right.
And so to do that, we're going to be looking at some research
Okay.
that use some classic moral dilemmas, the ones that make you kind of think twice
Right.
to see how people judge the morality of AI compared to humans.
Yeah.
And the results, I got to say, are pretty surprising.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think you'll find them interesting.
Okay.
The study actually found that people can be harder on AI than they are on humans when they're judging the exact same moral choice.
So it's almost like we have this inherent distrust or skepticism of anything that AI does.
Yeah, and I think it gets at that point you made at the beginning.
Yeah.
That there's something special
Mm-hmm.
about being human.
Right.
And there's something maybe unnerving about AI being able to make moral judgments that we think should be reserved for humans.
Yeah, that makes sense. So before we get too deep into these findings, I think it would be helpful to establish a basic understanding of what we mean by moral judgment.
Yeah, okay, let's unpack that a bit.
Yeah.
What is a moral judgment?
Well, I think most simply it's that process of evaluating whether something is right or wrong, good or bad.
Okay.
It's how we as a society decide what is acceptable behavior, who deserves blame when lines are crossed.
Right.
And it can feel like this really quick gut reaction.
Right.
But in reality, even in those split-second judgments, there's actually a lot of cognitive work going on behind the scenes. We might not realize it, but
It's not just about feeling. It's about thinking, too.
exactly.
So what kind of thinking is going on, when we're making these moral judgments?
Well, there's a lot. We're taking in information from our environment. We're considering social norms,
Right.
comparing potential outcomes, often without even realizing it.
That's like our brains are these tiny little morality calculators.
In a way, yeah. Now, when it comes to moral reasoning,
Okay.
there are kind of two main approaches that often come into play. Utilitarianism and deontology.
Okay, I've heard those terms before. Remind me what those are.
So think of it this way. Utilitarianism focuses on maximizing the positive outcomes for the greatest number of people.
Okay.
It's really all about results, even if that means making some tough choices along the way. Deontology, on the other hand, is more about following those rules and duties regardless of the consequences.
Okay.
It's about doing what's inherently right, even if the outcome isn't ideal for everyone.
Okay, so it's like utilitarianism is all about the ends,
Yeah,
and deontology is all about the means.
exactly.
So can we think of a real-world example maybe with a self-driving car? How these two approaches would be different?
So let's say a self-driving car is programmed with this really strict rule. Never speed.
Okay.
That would be like a deontological approach, following the rules no matter what. But what if the car needs to speed slightly to get someone to the hospital in an emergency?
Right.
The utilitarian approach might say, in this specific context, it's okay to break the rule to achieve that greater good,
Okay.
to save a life.
Right, because ultimately more people would benefit from breaking the rule
Exactly.
in that situation.
Daxer.
Oh, wow. That's a really good example. I can see how things get really tricky when we
Right.
start throwing AI into the mix.
Absolutely.
And that's where this research study comes in.
Okay.
They use two classic moral dilemmas to explore how people judge the actions of AI compared to humans.
Okay.
And these dilemmas are the trolley dilemma and the footbridge dilemma.
Yeah, I think I've heard of these.
Yeah, they're pretty famous.
But I wouldn't mind a refresher.
Yeah, I think our listeners would appreciate a refresher as well.
Yeah.
So let's start with the trolley dilemma.
Okay.
So picture this. You've got a runaway trolley. It's barreling down the tracks.
Okay.
There are 5 people tied to the tracks ahead.
Oh, no.
And you have the option of pulling a lever.
Mm-hmm.
to divert the trolley onto a sidetrack,
Okay.
saving those 5 people.
All right.
But here's the catch. There's one person tied to that sidetrack.
Oh, geez.
Do you pull the lever, sacrificing 1 to save 5?
Wow, that is a tough one.
Yeah.
My brain's already like...
Yeah, I know. It's one of those
Yeah.
classic thought experiments. It really gets at the core of these moral principles.
Yeah, absolutely. So the study had people judge this scenario.
Yes, but with a twist. Participants saw either a human or an AI agent making the decision.
So like pulling the lever or not.
Exactly.
Yep.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And that's where things get really fascinating. So what did they find?
I'm curious.
Drum roll, please.
Yeah.
The results were that people judged the AI agent more harshly,
Really?
regardless of whether it chose to sacrifice 1 life or let 5 die.
Wow. So it wasn't about the outcome.
Yeah,
It was about who was making the call.
exactly.
Really?
People were holding the AI to a different standard.
Huh. Fascinating.
Isn't that interesting?
It really is. It's almost as if we're less willing to grant the AI that moral authority,
Yeah.
even if it theoretically could make maybe a more logical choice.
Yeah, and maybe it even made what we would consider like the more moral choice,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Okay, so now I'm really curious about this second dilemma you mentioned, the footbridge dilemma.
Yes.
What's that all about?
So it involves a similar outcome,
Okay.
saving 5 lives at the cost of 1.
Mm-hmm. But the scenario is a lot more direct.
Okay.
So this time, imagine you're standing on a footbridge above a track.
Okay.
The only way to stop the trolley is to push a large person off the bridge and onto the track below,
Oh, wow.
sacrificing them to save the 5 people further down the line.
Okay, so this one's a lot more, I don't know,
Yeah,
visceral.
it feels a lot more personal.
Yeah, it's not just like pulling a lever.
Right, exactly.
You're actually like physically pushing somebody
Right.
to their death.
It's a much more like active role that you're taking.
Exactly. Okay, so
So did they also present this dilemma with both a human and an AI agent?
they did, yep. And what they found here is that the type of agent
Okay.
didn't significantly affect people's judgments this time.
Interesting.
This time, the focus shifted to the act itself.
So like the pushing of the person.
Yeah.
Huh?
Pushing someone off a bridge was seen as inherently wrong,
Interesting.
regardless of who did it or what the intended outcome was.
So it's almost like our like emotional response to the situation overrides any sort of logical calculation that we might make.
Yeah, like that emotional response is so strong, right?
Yeah.
To the violence of the act
Right.
that it kind of overpowers everything else.
It seems that way. Like with the footbridge dilemma, our strong automatic emotions take over,
Yeah.
whereas the trolley dilemma allows for more controlled cognitive thinking.
Right. So it's almost like with the trolley dilemma, we can kind of like step back
Yeah.
and like analyze the situation.
Right.
But with the footbridge dilemma, it's just like, oh my God, no.
Exactly. That like immediate like gut reaction.
Yeah.
And that difference in how we process each situation, I think, influences how we ultimately judge it.
Oh, this is so interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it really makes me rethink
Yeah.
how I view AI and morality.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got these 2 dilemmas and like these very different patterns of judgments.
Right.
And I'm really curious to know what this means for the bigger picture.
Yeah, me too.
But unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah. But stay tuned because we'll be right back to unpack this more after a short break.
Okay. I can't wait.
And we're back. Still thinking about those findings from those moral dilemmas.
Yeah, it's a lot to process, isn't it?
Totally. Like it really gets at the heart of this question we're trying to answer.
Right, about MI and morality.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that keeps coming up for me is this question of whether our own judgments about AI
Right.
are maybe preventing us
Yeah.
from seeing it as truly moral.
That's a really interesting thought. I think there's definitely something to that. I mean, we're comfortable with the idea of a human grappling with a tough moral choice.
Yeah, we expect that.
Right. We expect them to maybe struggle to weigh different factors. But when it's an AI making that same decision,
Right.
even if it's arrived at through a seemingly like more logical process, we still hesitate.
So we're almost holding AI to a different standard, even if we don't consciously realize it.
I think so. And I think it boils down to this idea that we've been wrestling with these moral dilemmas for centuries.
Right. Like, as humans, we've been trying to figure out what it means to be good, to act ethically.
Exactly. And AI It's relatively new to the game.
Yeah, it's like a new player on the field.
Exactly.
And we don't quite know how to, I don't know, fit it into our existing understanding of morality.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. We haven't had as much time to wrap our heads around the idea of machines making decisions that carry moral weight.
Right, and it's interesting because on the one hand, we have this fear of AI becoming too powerful, too intelligent.
Right.
But then on the other hand, we're also kind of reluctant to grant it
Yeah.
the ability to be moral, to be ethical.
It's almost a contradiction.
It is a bit of a contradiction, right? It's which one is it? Do we want AI to be moral or not? And I think that this tension between logic and emotion, between human intuition and algorithmic decision-making.
Yeah.
It's only going to become more pronounced as AI becomes more and more woven into the fabric of our lives.
Especially in areas like, self-driving cars, healthcare, criminal justice.
Right.
Where moral decisions can quite literally have life or death consequences.
It's high-stakes stuff.
It really is. It's almost like we're asking AI to navigate moral landscapes that we as humans still struggle with.
Right. It's a lot of pressure, so what can we do?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. It is. How can we bridge this gap between our expectations for AI morality and our own kind of messy, often contradictory human judgments?
I think a crucial first step is just becoming aware of these biases,
Okay.
recognizing that our gut reactions to AI might not always be fair or accurate.
So taking a step back.
Yeah, pausing, reflecting and asking ourselves, are we judging the AI fairly?
Yeah.
Based on, the facts of the situation?
Right.
Or are we letting our own emotions, our anxieties about AI maybe cloud our judgment?
Yeah. I like that. So more mindfulness,
Right.
less knee-jerk reactions.
Exactly.
I can get behind that. But is there anything else we can do maybe on a broader scale
Yeah.
to make sure that AI is being developed and implemented ethically?
I think transparency is a huge one.
Okay.
If we can understand the reasoning behind an AI's decisions, we might be more likely to accept them.
Right.
Even if they don't align perfectly with our own instincts.
So it's not just about the AI making the right choice.
Right.
It's also about being able to show its work.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so transparency. I like that. What else?
And it's not just about the developers making ethical choices. It's about creating systems that can actually demonstrate their ethical framework.
So it's building ethics into the AI from the ground up.
Exactly. Yeah. And this requires collaboration between AI developers, ethicists, social scientists, and even the public.
Right. So it's not just a tech industry thing.
Right.
It's a societal conversation.
Exactly, yeah. To ensure that we're all kind of on the same page.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got transparency, collaboration. Anything else?
I think another really important piece is honesty.
Okay.
Honesty about the limitations of AI. It's not a magic solution to all of our moral dilemmas.
Right.
It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Right.
The key is using it responsibly with careful consideration for the potential consequences.
And that requires dialogue, right? Constant dialogue.
Absolutely, yeah.
We need to keep talking about these issues, challenging assumptions, and refining our understanding of AI and its role in this moral landscape.
Yeah. This isn't a one-and-done conversation.
Right.
It's an ongoing process of learning, adapting, and evolving our understanding of AI.
This has been so eye-opening already. And to think we've only just scratched the surface.
Right.
But before we go any further, let's take a moment to recap what we've learned and explore some final thoughts on this really complex and ever-evolving topic. So stay with us.
Welcome back to our deep dive. I feel like we've gone through a crash course in ethics and philosophy and AI and the future of technology.
It's a lot to take in, for sure.
Yeah.
But these are such important conversations to be having as AI becomes, more and more a part of our lives.
Right, right. Okay, so let's do a little recap of what we've talked about so far.
Okay.
So we started by exploring, what is moral judgment? How do we decide what's right and wrong?
Right.
We talked about utilitarianism that focus on outcomes,
Right.
making the best choices for the most people, and then deontology,
Right.
which is more about rules and duties. And then we saw how those principles can play out in real world scenarios.
Yeah, like those self-driving car examples.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then we dug into that research, right?
All right.
looking at how people judge the morality of AI compared to humans.
Yeah.
Using those classic thought experiments.
The trolley problem and the footbridge problem.
Yeah. And I think the results were pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, they were really fascinating.
We found that people tend to judge AI more harshly than humans for making the same moral choices.
Especially those big life or death ones.
Yeah, especially in those like really big life or death situations.
Yeah, it seems like we're not quite comfortable yet with machines making those kinds of calls.
Yeah, even if their logic makes sense.
Right. Like we just haven't extended that trust to AI just yet.
Yeah, it's almost like we're not just asking AI to be ethical.
Right.
But we're also like grappling with what does it mean for AI to even have that power?
Right. It challenges everything we thought we knew about morality.
Yeah.
And about who we are as humans in this world.
Right. So it really gets at those big questions of, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be moral? And what is the role of AI in all of this?
Exactly. I mean, it brings up so many important questions.
Yeah.
I mean, how do we design these AI systems that reflect our values?
Right.
Even though our values are constantly changing.
Yeah.
How do we make sure AI is used ethically and responsibly as it continues to get smarter and more independent?
Right.
And how do we foster trust between humans and machines in this new world we're creating?
Yeah, those are the big questions. And they're not easy questions to answer.
No, they're not.
Because they're questions that we have to face.
Yeah, especially now. I think we're at such a critical moment in the development of AI, and I think the decisions we make now will really shape the future.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. This is on all of us.
Yeah, it's a collective responsibility.
Yeah. It's going to take ongoing dialogue and collaboration and a willingness to, challenge our assumptions. And we need to have everybody at the table.
Yeah, exactly. Developers, ethicists, policymakers, and just you and me.
Yeah. Regular, everyday people.
Right.
Who are going to be affected by these technologies.
Exactly. We're all in this together.
Yeah. Well, this has been quite a journey. It's left me feeling energized and terrified at the same time.
Same here. Like, the future is full of so much potential, but also so many unknowns.
Right. And I think the one thing that's become clear to me is that we, as humans, we really have a crucial role to play in shaping that future.
It's not about AI becoming ethical. It's about us becoming more aware of our own biases, more thoughtful about technology, and more committed to creating a future where we can all live well together.
Yeah.
Humans and AI.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. But as you head back out into the world, here's one last thought for you to ponder. Could it be that our discomfort with AI morality comes from a fear of being replaced? Not just in terms of like our jobs, but in terms of our place in the world. If machines can make moral decisions as well as humans, even better than humans,
Right.
what does that say about us?
That's a big question.
Yeah, it is a big question.
Yeah.
And it's one that I think we're going to be wrestling with for a long time to come. But that's what deep dives are all about, right?
Yeah, exploring these complex questions.
Exactly. So thank you so much for joining us on this journey. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.